of the Lynn with Ben show. I'm your host, Ben Hawkins, branch manager of Cross Country Mortgage here in beautiful Wilmington, North Carolina. We are coming to you live from the Signal Fire Studios today. The Lynn with Ben studio is still up and running, but we decided to make a location switch today due to TK's schedule. He's back there plugging away, getting all the wires uncrossed, if you will, and making sure all our cameras are good and trying to show me in the best light that they can. I mean, it's kind of tough to do, let me tell you, when it comes to getting good shots of me over here. But anyway, enough of that. I wanted to talk to you guys on Lim with Ben show. Well, first of all, you all know those of you guys who are friends of the show, you know that we typically discuss everything mortgage and real estate. We'll have different guests on throughout our area, throughout our market to come in, local real estate experts, attorneys, even the mayor of Wilmington, Bill Saffo's been on the show a couple times. Barry Habib, who's a mortgage interest rate insider, if you will. He looks at market trends and is able to come up with very accurate predictions. We've had some big time folks on the show, but today I'm running solo, and I wanted to talk to everybody today about an experiment that I did. And what I did, I recently purchased a home, and I did not use my own company. So I didn't use Cross Country Mortgage for my mortgage loan, which some would say, I'm a trader or, whatnot. I know some of my staff gave me a little bit of grief. Oh man, you're not doing the loan with us. Like, what's up, Ben? We're not good enough all of a sudden. What I realized though through my experiment was everything that I needed to see, and I did my mortgage loan through this experiment with an online lender. Okay, don't really want to get into naming names because I just don't think that's important. I don't believe in doing that. I wouldn't appreciate it if somebody went on air and blasted my company because everybody's experience can be different. Somebody could have used this company and had a wonderful experience. Me personally, I did not. But I don't want to divulge their name or whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But they're a big online entity, okay? And there were some glaring differences in the level of service and the level of price and the level of everything that went down. Communication, big one. That helped me see that we are doing the right things for the right reasons here at our branch in Wilmington. And, I'm just so grateful. It made me very grateful for the fact that we don't conduct business the way that other companies are out there, specifically our direct competition. And that made me very happy. So my experiment worked, but I want to get into some details today to tell you about, kind of how that went down. So when I first started my venture, I sold my home in October. Kendrick Gaddy with the Kendrick Gaddy real estate team of Intracoastal Realty. She did a fantastic job in helping me sell my home back in Porter's Neck Plantation. The house, we put it on the market. It went in like, I think 24, 48 hours. Had a full price asking offer. And we priced it appropriately. Kendrick did a great job of helping me navigate those waters. She showed me what I needed to do as far as staging the home and everything else. Like she just went above and beyond and helped me really get top dollar for my house as the market would allow at that time. And when I sold the home, I said to myself, I think I'm gonna wait for a few months until I decide on where I want to be, where my next home is located, seeing what the market was going to do price wise, things like that. I really wanted to make a good, sound decision in regards to where I was going to go. I didn't want to rush it. So I rented an apartment. Okay. I signed a 5-month lease, which ended up being about 2.5 months too long. I realized why apartment living is not for me very quickly after being there for about 2 weeks. It was a nightmare. They must have used plywood for the ceilings because you could hear everybody upstairs, their conversations, their footsteps, which sounded like they had cement blocks on their feet. It was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. Did not enjoy it at all. So I realized right away that this can't last very long. So after about a month and a half of entertaining all that, and dealing with things that I hadn't had to deal with in a while as a homeowner, kind of the not joys, the not joys, the frustration of being a renter for me. That's what I got to deal with. And after a month and a half of that, I finally had enough. And there was a house that came on the market out in Scotts Hill Village that I just really, really liked. And it was very convenient for me and my son and our family in relation to access to his school, access to main roadways, amenities like things that are important to folks. The hospital's right down the street in case of an emergency. So a lot of people may not even think about where's the hospital at, but it's always good to have something close in the event of an emergency. You never know what can happen. Fire department, amenities like shopping and eating, things of that nature. So I was very, very pleased to find this home come on the market, and it just seemed like the perfect fit. So I made an offer with the help of Miss Kendrick once again. Which, by the way, I work with the most amazing real estate agents in town. So, I refer out business to a lot of different ones. A lot of different ones refer out to me. The way that Kendrick was chosen initially to even be my agent was to pull her name out of a hat. And the reason her name got pulled out was by luck. I had 10 different realtors, my top realtor referrals names in that hat, and I pulled her name out, and there it was. So anybody that's an agent that works with me, I want you to please don't get your feelings hurt here. It wasn't that I didn't choose you for any other reason other than luck of the draw. I found that to be the only fair way to choose my real estate agent in this scenario. Being that I work with so many of you. I mean, there's so many great agents I could have chosen that I wouldn't have been able to pick unless it was drawn out of a hat, truly. So when I got with Kendrick when I found this home, and I said, Kendrick, I didn't want to buy anything for a while, but I can't stand living in this apartment. I just can't. I'm ready. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. It's a nightmare for me. And we went under contract I made an initial offer and they declined it, and they didn't counter back with anything that I felt was fair. Okay. So about 2 weeks later, they dropped the price, and I came back with a little bit higher of an offer. I felt like something that was comparable, and then we all ended up meeting in the middle. So in the meantime, I had driven by that house, and I saw the sellers actually out in the driveway they were an elderly couple, and they were with their daughter, moving some things around, maybe taking the last bit of their stuff out of the house because it was vacant. There was no staging or anything. It was just a vacant home when I walked in there to initially look at it. And I guess they were just putting some of the stuff out of the garage and their vehicles. So I got to go up and talk to them. And I actually said, hey, I'm the gentleman that made the offer on the house before, and just want to let you know that you have a beautiful home. And if you guys ever want to reconsider an offer, please let me know. And then about a week later, in that 2-week time period I was just talking about, is when they accepted my offer. So it's kind of cool how it went down. It just seemed like it all came together the way it was supposed to in God's timing. And, I was really grateful for that. So I feel like I got it for a good price. Kendrick took great care of me on everything, made sure that everything went smoothly, and we ended up closing. The only part about this that gave me heartburn was my mortgage process. Everything else was smooth as silk. So it opened my eyes up in this experiment to what my competition is actually doing. So first of all, I got my rate quote and everything, and they wanted to immediately lock the rate in. Well, being that I do this for a living, I had a very good feeling based on market data and knowledge that rates may be trickling down over the next few weeks. Well, guess what? That didn't matter because they made me pay in order for me to order my appraisal within this 30-day contract window, I had to lock my interest rate in. They wouldn't let me do it any other way. You had to lock the rate in before you could order the appraisal. Folks, that's not a lending rule. That is a company rule that they have to tie you into paying for an appraisal, locking the rate in to get you to clamp into them even more, to where it makes it harder for you to go anywhere else. That's why they do that. There's absolutely no reason in the world why you have to lock an interest rate in to order an appraisal. You don't. It is borrower discretion on when they want to lock the rate in. Now, I'm a firm believer of lock it and put it to bed. If you're happy with your pricing and you're happy with your payment, put it to bed, lock it, and don't worry about it anymore. However, somebody that does this for a living like myself knows, hey, there's a good chance rates could drop. Well, they did. They did. So I missed out on the boat on that. But by the time we got to that place where they told me they would do a free float down option, they didn't do it. I take that back. They dropped it an eighth. But rates had dropped about a half point at that time, at least on the product I was using and given my circumstance. Not all rates, not all companies are the same. But in this case, I could have saved a lot more money had I not had to lock the rate in order to order the appraisal. That was boo-boo number one, okay? Didn't like it, didn't appreciate it. Boo-boo number two, I must have sent in my income information 5 or 6 different times, the same items. And each time I had a different person telling me that I needed to resend it again. There was no stability, no continuity. Nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew that I had sent anything else in. It was just assumed that I hadn't. And instead of them doing research to finding said documents. So I sent documents over and over and over again. Okay. Total mess. Total mess. So we move on from that. The appraisal was due. All of a sudden, I have $10,000 in earnest money and due diligence on the line by the expiration date, okay, of my due diligence dates. That money goes live and I'm out of it if the appraisal comes in short. The appraisal didn't come in until 2 or 3 days after my due diligence expiration date, and we couldn't get anyone to give us an explanation. We couldn't get anybody to contact us to say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's the delay, so we could extend due diligence or anything of that nature. We were promised over and over again that it was coming. Well, then it gets into them and it's in review. Okay. Well, if it's in review, and I know this because I'm a mortgage lender, right? You still can give us what the value is of it. You can still tell us what it came in at. It's under review. That's nice. Release to me the value so I know that my $10,000 won't be thrown out in the street. Give me a heads up here. Nothing. No communication, no nothing. Let's move it up about a week. Going for the clear to close, trying to get everything mapped out here. They asked me for more documentation that had already been sent in. I sent it again. I sent it again and again and again. Three different times in that instance to try to obtain a clear to close. The day before closing, we're sitting there and they've got all my information they've ever asked for. That they could, there's nothing more they could possibly need. Again, I know what an underwriter is going to ask for anyway, so I prepared for it. I had everything in place, all my documentation, everything, all my ducks in a row. So I know what they're going to ask me for. And then all of a sudden, they need more items. So I send all that stuff in. I get a clear to close. They send the closing documentation over to the attorney. I go in to close about an hour late, which isn't terrible, don't get me wrong. But over that 2 or 3 day period before that, I could not get anybody on the phone to give me a clear answer if we were in fact closing that morning. I didn't find out till 10:30, supposed to be at Chris Huff's law office. And by the way, Chris Huff is amazing, is an amazing attorney in town. He did a great job. If anybody needs any real estate attorney needs, Chris Huff is one of the premier attorneys in this entire town, in this area. Does an amazing job. He bent over backwards to try to help me make my closing so I could move in my house before Christmas week. Okay? So I could have a Christmas there with my family. The lender would not reply back to me, would not call me back. So I blew them up. I must have spent 5 hours on a Thursday afternoon blowing them up to say, guys, what's happening? What's happening here? Friday morning of the closing, I didn't find out until 10:30 we were in fact good to go. They finally sent closing docs over. Their closing department had ample time to send the stuff over. The loan was done. We were good to go. Total nightmare. Total nightmare. And I'm not embellishing any of this. This was a total disaster. And I'll never forget it because I'm just so grateful we don't do business like this. But anyway, so that morning, find out we're going to close. Luckily, I had already gotten the check together, my certified check for the remaining funds for down payment and closing, which I couldn't have done a wire because I wouldn't have had time to wire the money. Luckily, Chris Huff with Huff and Saloma Law was able to take a certified check from me. He knows me anyway, but he knows the check's good. But I gave him a certified check for a blanket amount that I knew it would not exceed because I couldn't count on them to send a wire. There was no way that I would have time to go to Wells Fargo and send a wire to them, to the attorney's office, to be able to cover the closing cost. You have to schedule an appointment for a wire, and then the wire transfer, it could take a day to hit, okay? So just all of it was completely discombobulated. I close, right? I sign all the documentation. I buzz through it because I know the closing documents. I know what they are. I know what they look like. I've sat through thousands of closings. I understand it. Chris and I did it in about 20 minutes. Okay? Done. I go back to the office. Should be celebrating, right? I get to close on my new house. Good to go. We made it work. I had to fight like hell to get it there. I had to tell them how to underwrite the file and do their job because they were asking for things that this particular loan product did not even require. And they even sided with me. Their underwriters sided with me. Thank God I knew the business. Thank God I knew what I was doing. I can't imagine for folks out there that don't know a mortgage from a hole in the ground how they would get through this. Luckily, I've done it for 15 years, or I still wouldn't be closed with their underwriters and the way that they position themselves with the guidelines. So I get back to the office, should be celebrating. I get a phone call. Mr. Hawkins, we know you just closed, but we're going to need more documents. What? We just closed. You're supposed to be done with me. Oh, well, quality control went into the file. Their QC department went into the file and needed A, B, and C. A and B weren't hard to get. C was a pain in the butt. I spent another 4 hours on the day that I should be celebrating and moving furniture in my house, trying to help them get paperwork that A, they didn't need. They really didn't. If they did, I'd be happy to give it to them. I would have loved to have given it to them well before all this if they'd asked for it. Who does that? I closed on a loan and now you need more documentation before you'll fund it. It's insane, guys. It's insane. The bottom line is don't trust your mortgage financing and the move of your family, especially if you're moving. I don't care if you're moving across the street, but can you imagine if you're moving from out of state and you got moving vans packed, the kids running around trying to get down here and hustle and get in your new home, and you're dealing with crap like this, even after closing? It's a true story, guys. Again, I'm not going to name the company, but they're a big online lender, a big one. And I got all that I needed out of my experiment. I'm still frustrated about it. You know, I didn't leave them a negative review. I didn't get into all that. That's bad karma, in my opinion. They know they screwed up. Their team was even apologizing to me about, Ben, we know you really don't need this. Then why don't you convey that to your underwriter if I don't need it? I'm happy to. This product does not call for that. So I had to go through the list with them and tell them there were some things on there they didn't even need, and they ended up waiving a couple of them. But then they added other things. It's just a nightmare. So my whole point is this, folks. Don't be like me and do an experiment on your own when you don't know the mortgage industry, because I promise you will live to regret it. I've done this for 15 years, and I regretted every minute of using this lender. Total disaster. And I'm lucky to be in my house today at this point. I really am. Had I not known the business and known how all this works and known what to press on, what to ask, know how to push, how to pull, how to prod, and get the answers that I needed, I would not have heard a peep. These people did not care. I was just another loan number. I was somebody they didn't have to face. They're in a call center somewhere. They don't care. That's why it's so important, folks, to not do the experiment that I did. Because most of you, I'm sure, don't do home loans for a living like me, right? But even if you did, you'd be as stressed out as I still am a month later about my process. I'm still fired up about it. It was a nightmare. But don't do what I did. Don't be a dodo. Work with someone who's local, experienced, and will communicate with you. My cell phone is available to each and every one of you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You see Luke on there. There's my little baby boy. Yeah. Say hey, Luke. Anyway, he's been on the show a few times. We have fun. We have a good time. But, don't please call me. Let's get the conversation started today. I have been inundated with calls from folks over the last couple weeks, especially about cash out refinances, because equity gains are still high, believe it or not. Okay? Believe it or not, they are still high. Cash out refinances to pay off debt, to pay off credit card debt, maybe after the holidays, maybe you went a little crazy buying presents. Maybe you overindulged on buying the wife something expensive. Maybe you overindulged and bought the husband something too expensive or more expensive than you planned on. You can take out some of the equity in the house and still get a decent interest rate on it right now, folks. Don't get me wrong. Rates are higher than they were a year and a half ago. But even in the sixes, a rate on your home loan is going to be much lower than a 29% interest rate credit card or a 20% interest rate credit card that buries you for years if you're not careful. So what we do with cash out refinances is to look at your total amount of debt each month. If it makes it worthwhile to pay it off, we'll have that paid at closing for you. A lot of folks are taking cash out to have a nest egg right now. The economy's not exactly booming. It's not. Inflation's been high. Gas prices have been high. There's a lot of people out there that are struggling. They're tapping into some of the equity of their home to be able to have a nest egg, to be able to facilitate paying bills and things of that nature. So it's very important to always make sure you're doing it for the right reason. Don't just pull it out to pull it out, okay? But if you have a need for that, we definitely have the products. And a lot of folks are talking about selling their home at this point for the equity gain and buying something else. Buying a new home. Maybe they have to relocate. The good news is if they have to move, they are going to have a good nest egg in equity when they sell the property. So there's a lot of great options out there, but don't do what I did. Please don't do what I did. Use a trusted local expert who knows the products, who will communicate with you. There's nothing worse than somebody not communicating with you about your mortgage loan. There's nothing worse. You've got to have somebody who will be there for you to guide you every step of the way. And that's what we pride ourselves on doing here with the Lynn with Ben team of Cross Country Mortgage. I'm just so grateful that we don't do business that way, because I would hate to put my clients in a position where they couldn't get a straight answer from me. That's absolutely unacceptable. Forget all the rest of it. Forget sending in documents multiple times. That's bad enough as it is, because that's supposed to be your personal information. When you send it somewhere and they say they don't have it, where did it go? Kind of unsettling, right? You just don't have it? What? I mean, I know I sent it too. I even sent them the receipts of the send receipts of where I sent it and everything. Like that's very disheartening and very troubling. But the worst part about the whole thing was the lack of communication. Nobody gave I can't use the word. I could use the word I want to use, but I'm not going to do that on this show. This is a family-friendly show. But nobody gave two darns about me or my family and communicating with me to tell me if we were even going to close the morning of closing until right before it. And thank God I'd already gone and gotten a certified check for an amount over what was even required to bring, because I didn't have time to wire money at that point. The wire may not have hit. And the thing is, we were up against a brick wall because Friday everybody was off. It was December the 19th, so the Register of Deeds was closed. The Register of Deeds was going to be closed the next day, so I couldn't have even gotten in the house until the following week, which we were really hoping to get in there and worked very hard. I did my due diligence in getting in there, to get in there, pardon me. My real estate agent, Kendrick Gaddy, did. We all did. We all worked our tails off. And then to be treated that way with no communication, no type of heads up, man. I mean, I'm still reeling from it. I'm upset that people out there are doing business like that. It is wildly inappropriate, and it's not fair to the consumer. So again, guys, when you are thinking about who to use for a lender, sometimes it's not all about the price. This company had pretty decent rates. I mean, I was happy considering the market, but I would have traded. I would have taken a slightly higher rate to have a much higher level of service than I ever would, taking what I did from them, putting up with the stress and the headaches that I had to put up with. That is not peace of mind, okay? The interest rate's going to be what it's going to be, but dealing with a company that may lowball the heck out of it and then not communicate with you and ask you to send documents in 10 different times, and then after you've closed, are asking you for more documents that they should have asked for days in advance. They had ample time to do this. I mean, production's down 50% as an industry right now. You mean to tell me that they've laid off that many of their staff? That they're that backed up in underwriting? That should throw a red flag in itself right there. Anyway, that's my story. That was my experiment. I felt like a mad scientist because it drove me mad. It actually drove me completely insane for a little while. I'm like, dude, I can't believe I did this. I said I should just use my company. I mean, I would have had it closed well in advance. All hands would have been on deck because it's my loan. I know my team would have been extra enthusiastic to take care of it for me, right? But at the same time, the great thing that taught me was how grateful I am for the team that I have around me. We care about getting your loan closed on time or early every time. We care about talking to you and communicating with you to let you know exactly where your loan is in process. Even if we have to deliver bad news, we're going to deliver it in a timely manner, which means right away. If it's good news, we're going to deliver it right away. There's no room for delay in this stuff. There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line with these transactions. You can't trust it to somebody that doesn't give two dams about you or your family. Here with me, you're not just a loan number, okay? You're not just another file. You're the Joneses. You have kids. You have moving vans packed. You have goals in mind. The kids got to start school. They got to get acclimated in their new neighborhood with their new friends. You've got a ton of things you have to do. Hook up the water, hook up the electric. The last thing you need to be worried about is hearing from me about your closing. That's wildly inappropriate. Or hearing from a member of my team. So I'm just grateful we don't do business that way. It makes me very happy. And my experiment actually was a success in the sense that I know we're doing the right things for the right reasons. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, listening to my horror story, my mortgage lending horror story. Don't be a doofus like me and run an experiment like that. Because I'm telling you, as a 15-year vet in this industry, it like to drove me crazy. I literally almost lost my mind. And I do this for a living. So can you imagine you going through this, not doing this for a living, not knowing any better? Can you imagine the stress that's going to provide? I don't want that for you or your family. Give me a call today. Lend with Ben, Ben Hawkins, Cross Country Mortgage. You can go to lendwithben.com, 910-352-3373. My cell phone is available to you all 24/7. I'm working evenings, weekends, whenever you need me. I'm here for you and your family. So with that, guys, we're going to sign off today. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Lend with Ben show. We'll be back soon with some new mortgage and real estate updates. God bless.